My friends, let me tell you a story that's been weighing on my heart for years. I'm Chaim, born back in 1950 in Odessa, that old Black Sea town full of laughter and hard lessons. I came to Israel as a young man, carrying memories like stones in my pocket. At 75 now, I've seen enough of life's twists to know that the real secrets aren't hidden in gold or banks. They're in the quiet corners of our souls. This tale is about my cousin's boy, David, a good man from Tel Aviv who thought he knew what wealth meant. But oh, how wrong he was. Pull up a chair. I'll share it slow, like we used to at the Sabbath table. It started on a rainy night in Tel Aviv, the kind where the Mediterranean wind howls like it's got a grudge. David, a sturdy fellow in his 50s with hands calloused from years at the bank, stood by his father's bed in that dim hospital room. His father, old Isaac, was fading fast, breath coming in rasps like torn paper. "David," he whispered, eyes sharp one last time. "The family secret, the one from Grandpa in Odessa. It's in the chest under the Sabbath table. But listen close. Open it, and you might lose everything you've built." David's heart pounded. He'd waited his whole life for this. Wealth, real wealth, the kind the wise ones whispered about in our family, passed down like a sacred flame. He rushed home that night, the streets slick under his feet, mind racing with dreams of stability for his wife Sarah and their boy. The old wooden chest, dusty and carved with stars of David, sat just as his father said. His fingers fumbled with the lock, snap, and there it was. Not stacks of bills or deeds to land, but a bundle of yellowed letters tied with faded string. The top one fell open, handwriting he knew too well. It was from Sarah, his own wife. "David's too greedy," it read. "He hoards every shekel while we starve for more. We sisters must take what's ours before he ruins us all." His knees buckled. Betrayal, right there, in black ink. How long had this been brewing under their roof? And why had his father known and said nothing? David slumped against the table, the letters spilling like spilled salt. Bad luck, we say in the old ways. He read on, each one a dagger. Notes from his sister Rachel, in Haifa, plotting to siphon funds. Even a scribble from his brother Israel back in Odessa, demanding his fair share of the phantom fortune. But what chilled him deepest was a small silver medallion tucked in the bundle, engraved with words from the Torah. "The light of a candle is not for one alone." Grandpa's words, they said, a hint at sharing, at giving without tally. Yet here was proof his family had twisted that light into shadows of envy. David's hands shook as he dialed Sarah. "Where are you?" he asked, voice cracking. She lied smooth as silk, out with friends, but in the background a whisper, like wind through cracks. Rachel's voice? Why this web of deceit in a family raised on Talmud tales of trust? And Grandpa, that poor tailor from Odessa, who barely scraped by after the war. How could he promise wealth only the wise know if it led to this poison? The questions clawed at him through the night. David paced the apartment, the medallion heavy in his palm, its chain cool like a warning. He'd built his life on the family's iron rule. Save every drop, like the proverb says, a drop carves the stone. No extravagance, no risks, just steady accumulation, the secret passed at Sabbath dinners. But now it unraveled. His job at the bank felt hollow, his savings a fortress built on sand. By dawn, as the first light hit the sea view, he saw the scale of it. This wasn't just about money. It was the heart of their bond, cracked wide. Who in the family truly held the key to this wealth, or were they all blind to the greed eating them alive? If he chased this shadow, he'd shatter what little trust remained. But turn away? No, that secret called like a siren song. He made his choice then, staring at the letters strewn like fallen leaves. He'd go to the source, back to Odessa, to Aunt Rachel, the last one who remembered Grandpa's stories firsthand. She kept the old ways, lighting candles every Friday, reciting Modeh Ani in the morning light. Pack a bag, book the flight. That's what he did, hands steady now with purpose. As the plane ticket confirmed on his screen, his phone buzzed. Unknown number. "David, don't dig deeper," a voice growled, low and familiar. "You'll lose the boy, your son." He froze. That accent, Odessa roots. It was Israel, his own brother, cloaked in threat. The line went dead, leaving David with a chill deeper than the rain. What fresh trap waited across the sea? The flight to Odessa was a blur for David, that old Soviet-era airport greeting him with its familiar chill and the tang of salt from the Black Sea. I remember Odessa well, born there myself in the shadow of those grand opera houses and bustling markets where every deal was haggled like a prayer. David stepped off the plane feeling like a stranger in his own roots, the medallion burning a hole in his pocket. Aunt Rachel lived in a weathered apartment near the Deribasovskaya, the one with the lace curtains and the scent of fresh challah on Fridays. She was in her 70s, sharp as a tack, with eyes that had seen the famines and the floods. "Come in, nephew," she said, pulling him into a hug that smelled of lavender and old books. "It's been too long since Sabbath at our table." They sat down that evening as the sun dipped low, the table set simple, wine, matzo, and her handwritten notes from the Torah. David couldn't hold back. He spilled the story of the letters, the chest, the threats. Rachel listened, her face unreadable, like she was weighing his words against some ancient scale. "Your father was right to warn you," she murmured. "Grandpa's secret wasn't for the greedy. It's from the Talmud. Give to receive, share the light before it flickers out." She fetched an old, leather-bound book from her shelf, its pages yellowed and marked with Grandpa's scrawl. "Here," she said, sliding it over. "Read the margins." He called it the formula. A drop carves the stone. Save the small things, let them build like patience in prayer. David pored over it by lamplight, his excitement building like a tide. The notes hinted at a system: track every expense, invest in family ties, avoid the flash that burns quick. But buried in the back, a code. Numbers that looked like a bank account, Swiss maybe, from Grandpa's days trading fabrics post-war. This could be it, David thought, heart lifting. Millions, hidden away, the wise man's wealth. He pictured calling Sarah, making amends. His son, Avi, off to university without a worry. The first hurdle came soft. Rachel dodged his questions about the letters. "Family quarrels are like weeds," she said. "Pull one, 10 grow." But he pressed gently, and she relented with a sigh, sharing a vague tale of Grandpa's frugality, saving them during hard times. Hope bloomed. David phoned Avi that night. "Son, we're going to be all right. This secret, it's real. True wealth, the kind that lasts." Avi sounded wary but warmed. "Okay, Dad, hurry home." For the first time since the hospital, David felt the path clear, like dawn breaking over the sea. But oh, my friends, life has a way of yanking the rug just when you think you've found your footing. The next morning, as David traced the code on his laptop, fingers flying, piecing together an old bank name from Grandpa's era, the screen lit up with a balance. Zeros? No, a string of figures that made his breath catch. Over 2 million shekels, untouched since the 90s. "Rachel," he called, bursting into her kitchen. She smiled faintly, but her eyes held caution. Grandpa wanted it for the wise ones, not the hunters. David laughed it off, optimism surging. This was the key, the family's hidden nest egg, proof that their ways worked. He wired a test transfer, small, to confirm. It went through. Elation washed over him. He'd fly back rich, mend the rifts. But as the confirmation pinged, something nagged. A note in the book. Test the heart first. He brushed it aside. Why question a miracle? The crash came swift, like thunder over the steppe. David stepped out to buy flowers for Rachel, Gratitude, he thought, when his brother Israel appeared from the shadows of the alley, face twisted in fury. "Thief!" Israel spat, grabbing David's arm. "Digging in the chest? Calling banks? That's our inheritance you're stealing." David reeled. How did he know? Israel, broad-shouldered and bitter from years scraping by in Odessa's markets, waved a crumpled letter, the same bundle, or copies. "We've all been watching you, big-shot banker. Family's been pulling strings for decades, whispering about Grandpa's pot. You think you're special?" The accusation hit like a slap. David pulled up the account on his phone to prove it clean, but as he logged in again, empty, drained overnight. A test? Grandpa's trap the book had warned to snare the greedy. Israel's laugh was hollow. He did the same to Father, dangled hope, then nothing, taught us wealth is in the lesson, not the coins. The stakes skyrocketed then, pulling David under like a riptide. Back in Rachel's flat, phone buzzing nonstop, Sarah's voice cold as ice. "I'm leaving, David. Took half the savings. For Avi's sake, your secret obsession broke us." She hung up, and minutes later, a photo from a friend, Sarah and Avi at the airport, bound for her sisters in Haifa. The family wasn't just fractured, it was unraveling, thread by thread, like the old proverb warns, a debt is a rope that strangles slow. No more lone hunts. This threatened everything. Home, son, the very blood ties Grandpa had woven. David paced, the medallion mocking him from the table. "We can't keep scheming like this," he told Rachel, "like a noose on our necks." She nodded, weary. "Then call the minion, the family circle. Face it all in Odessa before it chokes us." Risky, yes. Israel already raging. But what choice? David sent the messages. Come, talk, no more shadows. As replies trickled in, wary yeses from cousins, he felt the weight shift. No more hiding. Confront the poison head on. But during that tense wait, Rachel let slip a bombshell over tea. "Your grandpa? He lost it all in the 90s crash. Same greed, chasing one big score. Bankrupt, alone, that's the real family secret." David's resolve hardened into desperation, the minion set for the old synagogue by the port, where Grandpa had prayed. He cornered Israel the night before, the two brothers in a dim cafe, thick with cigarette smoke and sea air. "Give it back, the medallion, the truth," David demanded, voice low. Israel sneered, but David lunged, snatching the heirloom from his brother's coat, proof he thought of the lies. A scuffle, shouts, but David slipped away, heart racing. Back at Rachel's, he waved it like a trophy. "See? This is the key." Worn down by his pleas, she fetched a hidden envelope. Grandpa's real letter on generosity. Wealth flows when you let go, like the light of Sabbath candles shared. Pyrrhic victory, words not gold, but it felt like triumph. David read it aloud, voice trembling, promising himself. This would heal them. The price hit like a storm. Israel, furious, called the police. "My brother's stolen family property." Sirens wailed as David fled the flat, envelope clutched tight. Then his phone. Avi, sobbing. "Dad, Mom says you're ruining everything. Why can't you just stop?" The boy's words pierced deeper than any cop's flashlight. David ducked into the synagogue, empty save for echoes, the ark looming like judgment. Alone now, medallion cold in his fist, he saw it clear. Every win, the code, the letter, had only widened the chasm. Israel banged on the door outside, Rachel's silence a wall. Sarah gone with their son. All lost, the family web torn to shreds. No hope. Flickered, just the weight of his chasing, turning blessings to curses. And as he sank to the pew, crumpling the letter to light a match, watch it burn to ash, he realized it was fake, Rachel's test. The family had turned their backs for good, leaving him in the dark with nothing but regret. David huddled in that empty Odessa synagogue as the night deepened, the flames from the burned letter flickering like mocking stars on the stone floor. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and wax from forgotten candles, and outside, the sea murmured its endless complaints. I know that place well, prayed there as a boy, feeling the weight of generations. David was at his lowest, my friends, crushed under the rubble of his own making. The police lights had faded, but the sting of Avi's voice echoed. "You're ruining everything." Sarah gone, Israel raging, Rachel's door locked against him. He'd chased the secret like a fool after shadows. And now? Nothing. No family, no fortune, just the medallion's empty gleam. "Why, God," he whispered, head in hands. "I just wanted to provide, to be the wise one Grandpa spoke of." The debt of his ambition felt like a rope around his neck, tightening with every breath. "Surrender," whispered sweet. "Let it all go, fade into the Black Sea fog." No more fighting. The wise way was to walk away, alone. But in that pit of despair, as the first gray light of dawn crept through the stained glass, depicting Moses at the sea, a spark ignited. David lifted his head, eyes falling on the eternal flame above the ark, steady and shared. Grandpa's words from the Torah flooded back, pieced together like a puzzle finally clicking. The light of a candle is not for one alone. All those letters, the codes, the feuds, they weren't about hoarding wealth. They were mirrors of his own tight-fisted heart. He'd saved every shekel, built walls around his love, fearing loss like the pogroms our people endured. But Grandpa, the tailor who'd lost everything in the 90s crash, he'd thrived not by grabbing, but by giving, sharing scraps with neighbors, lighting extra candles for strangers. The epiphany hit like warm sunlight. The real secret was release, letting go of control. Greed wasn't the family's curse, it was his, reflected back 1,000 times. "I've been the stone in my own heart," David murmured, carving away at bonds instead of building them. With that truth burning brighter than the ark's flame, a new plan formed, bold, desperate, his last stand. No more solo hunts or sly calls. He'd return to Tel Aviv, summon the family not for shares or secrets, but for raw truth. A Sabbath table, open and honest, where the light could multiply. Risky? Utterly. Israel might come swinging, Sarah with lawyers in tow. But what was left to lose? He pocketed the medallion, whispered Modeh Ani to the dawn. "I thank you for this life, even broken," and booked the flight. As the plane lifted over Odessa's ports, David felt resolve harden. This wasn't about winning money. It was about mending souls. And in his bag, that half-burned letter. Not fake, after all. Rachel had slipped in a real note. "Forgive first, and wealth follows." The circle would break, or he'd shatter trying. Back in Tel Aviv, the apartment felt like a stranger's. Echoes of Sarah's perfume faint, Avi's toys dusted over. David wasted no time. He sent the invitations, simple as bread. "Family, come Saturday. No games, no debts, just us and the truth." Responses trickled. Israel's curt, "Fine." Sarah's hesitant, "For Avi's sake." Cousins murmuring yes. The table was set humble, challah, wine, the book from Rachel. No chest, no medallions hidden. As they gathered that Friday eve, tension crackled like dry lightning. Israel stormed in first, fists balled. "You drag us here after your theft? Police said you ran like a coward." Sarah arrived with Avi clinging, eyes red. "David, this obsession, it's poisoned us. Half our savings gone, and for what? Illusions?" The boy shrank back, the room a powder keg. David stood steady, voice calm as the sea at rest. "Sit, light the candles with me." The confrontation erupted over the blessing. Israel slammed the table. "Where's the money? Grandpa's pot. You found it? Hoarded it?" Accusations flew, Sarah weeping about years of skimped vacations, cousins nodding at old grudges from Odessa days. Stakes soared. Avi tugged David's sleeve. "Dad, make them stop," while Israel threatened to walk, taking what little remained. David let the storm rage, heart pounding, but he didn't flinch. Then the turn, using his epiphany like a shield. "Wait," he said, holding up the medallion. "This isn't about gold. Grandpa's secret? Look." He passed the Torah book, open to the margin. "Give without tally. The light multiplies when shared." Faces twisted in confusion, anger bubbling higher. Israel lunged for the book. Sarah grabbed Avi to leave. Back and forth it swung. A cousin defended David, only for Israel to shout him down. Sarah softened for a breath, then hardened again. "Lies!" Israel roared. "You're just buying time to keep it all." But in the chaos, as candles sputtered, David played his card, the insight that had saved him in the synagogue. "The real curse isn't the money," he said, voice rising clear. "It's us, me first, clutching like the rope strangles. Grandpa lost everything chasing the same, but he found peace giving away his last coin to a beggar. That's the wealth, freedom from fear." He slid the medallion across. "Take it, Israel. Sell it, split it, or share the light." The room stilled. Israel hesitated, fingers hovering. Sarah's tears shifted, seeing not greed but pain in David's eyes. The swings peaked. Avi stepped forward. "Dad's right. Stop fighting," a cousin echoed, breaking the dam. Israel deflated, dropping the medallion back. I bankrupted us too, chasing deals. Forgave nothing." Sarah reached out. "We all did." The outcome landed firm. No riches flowed, but the air cleared. Hugs, halting apologies. The family, raw and real, lit extra candles together. Victory, hard won in the quiet after. Weeks blurred into a new rhythm, the dust settling like fine sand after a gale. David walked the Tel Aviv beaches alone at first, the weight lifted but scars tender, the lost savings a reminder, Avi's wary glances a mirror. Sarah stayed, tentative. They talked late, unraveling years of tight knots. No grand windfall, but something deeper bloomed. David donated the book's code, a metaphor, Rachel confessed later, to a community fund, helping Odessa families like Grandpa once did. Work shifted. He left the bank for advising small businesses, teaching the drop that carves as patience, not hoarding. Israel visited, sheepish, sharing his own Odessa struggles. Cousins called regular, the minyan, reborn over Zoom. Avi, brightest change, lit the Sabbath candles himself one Friday, grinning. "Dad, this feels like real treasure." Months on, the table in Tel Aviv hummed again, not with schemes, but stories. David had transformed. Wiser, lighter, the stone in his heart rolled away. No more illusions of control. Life flowed like shared wine. The final image lingers for me. David by the window at dusk, medallion on the sill, watching Avi play outside. He whispered to the fading light, "Thank you for the lesson. Wealth in what we give." And in that moment, the family stood whole, the secret unlocked not in gold, but in the flame passed hand to hand. The garden in Tel Aviv was a quiet haven that evening, the Sabbath candles still flickering on the windowsill inside, casting soft shadows on the bougainvillea. David sat on the old wooden bench, Avi curled against his side, the boy's head heavy with sleep after the long talk. The air hummed with cicadas, and for the first time in months, peace settled like a gentle blanket. Sarah lingered in the doorway, a faint smile breaking through her weariness. No more accusations, just the shared warmth of the meal. Israel had left with a gruff nod, promising to call. The cousins dispersed with hugs, their voices lighter. David wrapped an arm around his son, breathing in the salt-kissed breeze. Finally, he thought, heart easing, the nightmare's over. We're rich, not in shekels, but in this, in us. The world felt whole again, the rope of debt loosened, the light multiplied. No more chasing, just being. Yet as the stars pricked the sky, David wandered back inside alone, drawn to the candle's glow. He picked up the medallion from the table, turning it in his hands, the engraving catching the flame. The light of a candle is not for one alone. A sudden chill ran through him, not from the night air, but from a whisper deep within, like Grandpa's voice in prayer. And then it struck, sharp as a revelation in the Torah. It wasn't the letters or the intrigues that had torn them apart, not the secret of wealth dangled like bait. No, the true enemy, the one that had poisoned everything, was his own pride. That stubborn stone in his heart, hoarding grudges and control like a miser with coins. All those years at the bank, pinching every expense, silencing Sarah's dreams for security, ignoring Israel's pleas from afar. It was him, mirroring the very greed he'd blamed on the family. Grandpa's template, repeated. The tailor who clutched his scraps until they crumbled, leaving bitterness in his wake. David sank into a chair, the pieces crashing together in a rush. The chest's warnings, his father's rasp, they were echoes of his own unspoken fears, projected outward. Every betrayal, the letters from Sarah, Israel's threats, had been a reflection of his silent egoism, the way he'd built walls instead of bridges, saving for the wise while starving the heart. The code in the book, the drained account, traps he'd sprung himself, chasing illusions because pride wouldn't let him give first. Even the minyan's healing, the apologies flowing, it only happened because he'd finally cracked, admitting his fault. The family mended not despite him, but because he broke the cycle at last, letting go like the proverb, "A word is a bird. Once flown, it returns transformed." Tears came then, quiet and cleansing. I was the rope, he realized, strangling us all with my need to hold tight. The medallion felt lighter now, a symbol not of loss, but of the freedom and surrender. And in that quiet hour, David's story stopped being just one man's tale. It became a mirror for every soul listening. For you, my friends, with your own hidden stones and flickering lights. What if the most dangerous enemy we fight our whole lives isn't the people around us, or the hard times that come knocking, but the shadows we refuse to face within? The greed, the pride, the fear we dress up as wisdom? That's the real question hanging in the air, the one that leads to the deepest truth. Hold on. The answer, the heart of it all, is coming right now. But what happened to David after that night in the garden, with the candles burning low and the family finally breathing easy? It wasn't the end of his story, not really. The real heart of it lies deeper, in the why of it all. Why we grasp at these secrets of wealth like drowning men at straws, only to find them slipping through our fingers. Have you ever paused, my friends, in the quiet of your own evenings and wondered why fortune seems to tease us, flying away like a bird from an open hand? Why the more we chase, the emptier we feel? Believe me, from my years in Odessa's markets and Israel's sun-baked streets, I've seen it time and again. This isn't just David's tale. It's a thread woven through all our lives, pulling at the same hidden knots. And what David uncovered, what changed everything for him, isn't some magic formula. It's a truth so simple, yet so overlooked, that it can rewrite your days if you let it. Pull your chair closer. I'm sharing this from the soul, as one who's walked the path and come out wiser if a little bent. Now lean in, because here's where the light truly breaks through. The greatest secret of wealth that only the wise truly know, the one Grandpa whispered in those margins, the one the Talmud hides in plain sight, is this. True riches aren't built by piling up stones in your heart, hoarding against the storm. No, they're born from releasing the fear that grips us, the terror of loss that makes us clutch tighter and tighter. Our minds, you see, they love the familiar road, even if it's a circle of shadows, repeating the same grabs for security, the same silent prides that push loved ones away. David's whole life was that loop, saving for tomorrow, building walls instead of welcomes, until the rope of his own making nearly strangled the joy right out of him. But he broke it with one act of letting go, sharing the light first, forgiving without tally, giving as the candles do, brighter together. And in that release, freedom flowed in, not as gold, but as peace that multiplies, bonds that endure, a life rich in ways no bank can measure. And just like that, it touches us all, doesn't it? You, sitting there with your memories of hard-won savings or family feuds over fair shares, we're all walking that same circle, choosing the known fear over the open hand. But what if one step off the path, one act of true giving, unlocked the wealth waiting inside? David's did. It turned his ashes to warmth. So, tell me, what familiar circle are you tracing in your own chase for security? The grudges held too long, the dreams deferred for safety? And what might happen if you stepped aside, let the light spread? Think on it, my friends. Stories like this, ones that shift how we see our tomorrows, we unpack here together, candle by candle. To catch the next one that might light your way, well, you know what to do.